can see you there. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. Today we're checking out Crack Where the Light Gets In. Now, I looked this phrase up because it's a neat phrase and I wanted to know where it came from. And I know it from a Lana Del Rey and Father John Misty song. But it turns out they were both quoting Leonard Cohen. So I don't know if Leonard Cohen is the originator of this phrase, but it's certainly popular among people called Leonard and people who like people called Leonard, i.e. Father John Misty and Lana Del Rey. So that's I don't know if it goes back further. I'm not going to Google it now. We try and save the Googling for a little bit deeper into the stream. I know we don't want new viewers popping in and being like, is this just a guy Googling stuff? You know, we've already got one Lemmy. We don't need another guy that just Googles stuff. I'm a bit quiet. Hello? There we go. I was using my inputs yesterday for some music and I had to set it up differently. So, welcome. Hope you've had a good Monday, and if you didn't, it's over now. You never have to do that particular Monday again, which is good. Today we're checking out Cracks Where the Light Gets In. I had a look at this before, like a couple of weeks ago. We had it on one of the Discord community streams, and I checked it out for a couple of minutes, and that's too loud now. I checked it out for a couple of minutes, and then I thought this needs a longer stream because it's not the sort of game that you can really understand in 5 or 10 minutes. So that's what we're doing today. And we've got a kind of puzzle week because the Indies Under the Knife we're doing on Thursday is kind of deductive puzzle games as well, or logical puzzle games. And yeah. So I'm going to be talking about the stuff in this game I like. Yeah, Monday's I got Monday on Thursday a few weeks ago. Terrible. Yeah, we'll be talking about stuff we like about this, seeing if there's any parts of it that don't work. Hi, KP. KP raided us yesterday. I didn't even notice it when it happened. So I looked on the Streamlabs summary before I came online today, and it was like, Kitten raided you with 4 people. Streamlabs is really not very good at informing me of these things. I did, yeah. I started at 9:30 yesterday because I didn't want to be, because it wasn't a main stream, and I just didn't want to be twiddling my thumbs for hours in the morning. Okay, so this is the bit that I played before. Listen to what they're saying, interact with anything that can. Learn how to commit memory. Pardon the restraint, we have found it necessary to carry out the update. Let them go, this is sanctuary. You must leave country of Ireland now. We are members of the North Ministry. Have you heard of us? Our new leaders have cancelled that ill-fated project and tasked us with finding anyone loyal to the old regime. So I think the project he's talking about is the country of Ireland that Dan Meyer just talked about. You heard what he said? Red spoke saying welcome here. So that's Sandmeyer, maybe? These are the 2 soldiers. That's Sandmeyer and that's Mama and Papa who are tied up. And that's why it's doing the speech bubble on that side. I have heard. However, our great news has not yet been announced in Southern Ireland. but it would seem you know too much. The name you used has now been outlawed, since it was popular among the old loyalists, that's calling them red folk. So it would seem you know too little, victims of your own seclusion. Please, join us on our journey home. Our vehicle is spacious, and we will ensure that you are fully informed by the delicate power of the Ministry of Justice. I placed you under arrest. We can move back and forth through the dialogue, like we're reading a comic book, and then we can pin it. And that's just got like the whole script of what we've just seen. And then we can interact with anything that catches our eye. Here, I think we've got... I don't think there's anything else in the actual room. But we do have that. So we've got a green truck that had Project Overseers, and it's been stuck over with greetings to the something newly appointed leaders of Karata. Right? And this is the invading force, the soldiers who've just come in, and whoever this is, maybe our family friend, referred to them as red folk, or maybe our mum or dad referred to them as red folk. They were like, you're not allowed to call us that, which is kind of rich because they've literally got a flag which is a wheel with a red spoke on it. So I don't know why they would be offended by being called that. Like, I don't know, but that's kind of what we've got so far. Hold these words and pictures in your memory. Think, think, think. Make it make sense. Pull the cord. Begin. Right. Who's being restrained? Sandmeyer is being restrained and interrogated by the soldiers, who's telling them to leave Heerlen. I live in Heerlen, and the soldiers are from Morata. I think that's right. I'm rushing through this a little bit. This is the bit that I already played on the previous stream, so I think that's right. Oh, Mama and Papa are being restrained? Is that right? It's not always obvious how you confirm things. So this has got a tick. Oh, who is telling them to leave? Oh, Mama and Papa are being restrained. Soldiers are interrogating, and Sandmeyer is the person telling them to leave. There we go. So we've sorted out which things are facts, and then we're going to put them into this bigger mind map, which is done with this quite charming kind of slightly retro board gamey interface. The country I live in is called Heerlen. That's where I am. What is happening? Soldiers are here because they've been tasked with arresting loyalists of Murata's old regime. What is happening? Mama and Papa are being arrested. Can we select some answers? So soldiers are taking Mama and Papa from here then, but yeah, okay. Because they assume they're loyalists. From here. Answers are always logically deductible from the fact that they're doctors. So you could see that this could become very much just a try everything, but I think if you're the sort of person who's going to do that, you wouldn't be interested in this game in the first place. So these are locked in now. So that's what these red pins are. This is like, I can't take these boats out. So this one is still free and could go there. It's really interesting because, like, what this game is trying to do is you're hiding under the bed. You're a kid, right? Oh, how do I get rid of that? Just made a debug thing come up. I don't know how to get rid of it. You're a kid. You're hiding under the bed. You're piecing together facts about the world, and then this is kind of your mind palace where you draw inferences from things that you've seen or heard so far. There might be some issue with the mic in terms of, like, there's like a noise reduction thing on that sometimes causes a little bit of cut off. I'll try and speak louder, but there's not really much I can do at this stage because the way you fix the mic for streaming is recording yourself loads of times and listening to the recording before you stream. So I cannot really fix that mid-stream. I cannot hear myself. There is no monitoring that sounds exactly as it does for you. So I've placed my answers there, but apparently they're not right, or it's not. Okay, the soldiers are taking Mama and Papa from Heerland because they assume they're loyalists from Maratha. I wouldn't have known that, but I'm guessing Mama and Papa and the player character are not from Heerland. They've fled to Heerland. I think that's what's being implied here. Green lines indicate solutions that will contribute to a future deduction. This goes down here. The final doc requires a fact with this icon. Okay, so here's Heerland, where we start off the game. This is Maratha, where the soldiers have come from. It sounds like Maratha has annexed Heerland or something and they're taking it over. Don't know. Don't know what's going on there. This is very, very busy, this screen. Like, from a just general UI design point of view. And I think this might be the only type of game that can get away with that. Because if you think of the type of players that this type of game is going to attract, they're going to be much more willing to deal with this amount of, like, noise in terms of just how much is on the screen at once. Because of the type of game it is, and because it, you know, all of this is in place to stop this being a notebook game where we have to write down everything we know. Because the game has given us an interface to do that sort of thing. So I haven't played The Root Trees Are Dead, but my understanding is it's a similar sort of game to this. So it's kind of going to fall into the same category in terms of the types of players that are interested in this sort of game. The soldiers are taking Mama and Papa from Heerland because they assume they're loyalists from Maratha. So the soldiers came to Heerland because Stan Meyer looks after those hiding sanctuary. Does that go there then? Select your note to acquire more facts. Okay, I need to pay attention to the one that has the big red thing. A new tab has been added with the icon you need. Cross-reference your two memories to find this answer. Okay. Under the old regime, the soldiers in Heerland, the soldiers were in Heerland to Under the old regime, the soldiers were in Heerland to oversee a project which they were unable to finish. The new regime was unknown in southern Maratha when they took control. Is that right? Is it going to tell me when it's right? Okay. There's always this interesting, like, there's this cutoff point in deduction games where you have to work out when are you going to give the player a thumbs up to let them know they got something right, even though the player character wouldn't know that? And a good example of that would be something like Papers, Please, where you're working, you know, you're a border guard, you're letting people in or not letting people in and letting people pass and looking at their documents and so on, and that's what Papers, Please is. But even though it's not like an arcade game and it's a bit more kind of gritty and grounded, the game still lets you know how many you got right or when you let someone through that you shouldn't have and so on. And that piece of information is really important in order for it to function as a game, rather because otherwise there just wouldn't be any feedback. And it's really an interesting sort of design consideration of like, where do you make that concession in a game like this? Because this game is doing it as well. It's like my character that I'm playing as doesn't know all of these things, right? And how do I get this to go away again? My character doesn't know all these things, but the game still needs a way to just give me a tick on certain things and let me know that I got it right. So the final dock requires a fact with the red spoke icon, which this one doesn't have, right? This has the little person icon on it. Whereas this has the red spokes icon, which have, I guess, facts to do with Murata. That's like the category of things they come from. The soldiers came to Heerland because the soldiers were here to oversee a project which they had to leave unfinished. The soldiers intend to something the country. Mama and Papa will be taken to somewhere. Damn, I've seen your question in the chat. I will finish this screen and then I will answer it. I do have an answer for that, but it's just going to be some variation of it depends, because the grown-up answer to most complex questions is it depends, and people that give you simple answers to complex questions are usually trying to tell you something. The soldiers intend to... Where are we getting the word from for this one? So now, if the dev is watching this from a pure UX point of view, now I'm lost as to where I'm taking the word. The soldiers intend to... Mama and Papa will be taken to Murata, right? That goes there. Oh, the soldiers intend to leave the country. That's really interesting. So that we take the words and we put them into the new clue, but the words don't necessarily mean, they're not like always directly related. It's just, here's a word that plugs in here that you need to take from here to here.
A foreign militia is coming. Soldiers from Murata.
Canny said,
from their new leaders, the Octumberate. Last time they were here, they were fresh off a bloody coup.
Good voice acting. No.
Anyone they suspected of being loyal to the old regime. A foreign militia is coming. But the last time they came here was decades ago. Creator's parents were taken for being too well informed. It seems too monstrous to be believed. And honestly, I'm having trouble believing it. Creator was only 5 years old at the time, and in the 3 weeks since they told me that the foreign militia was coming back again, I've heard nothing. This is Heerkust, my town. Traders in spring, tourists in summer, trawlers all year round. I spend my days pressed against this window, not just because Creator told me to watch for the militia. I've always loved the rhythm of Heerkust. I've heard fishermen curse the volcanic ash drifting over from the Tackle Islands. I've heard merchants grumble about the sparse tourist season. I've even heard old Henrik lamenting his stolen canoe. But when it comes to this foreign militia, not a whisper, not even a...
Uh-oh. So yeah, before I get stuck into this scene, someone in the chat said, "Can you learn stuff from AAA games?" So the way I would think about that, you know, working to your skill level. So Jam said, you were talking about working to your skill level. Is it worth analyzing and breaking down AAA games to learn and for inspiration, or should you only analyze games at your level? Now, you can learn stuff from AAA games about just general game design, um, but some of it is going to be specific to AAA games and like the level of like visual realism in a AAA game, for example, or you know, a lot of AAA games are designed in such a way that they are trying to appeal to the largest possible audience, which means that even kind of hardcore AAA games tend to be more casual in their design, which means that they try and make everything very intuitive and they don't encourage players working things out for themselves, right? So the classic thing is like, you know, the God of War puzzle where you walk in the room and 30 seconds in, someone starts telling you how to do the puzzle. That's an example of stuff from AAA games we maybe don't want to copy. But the way I would see it is games is a really broad set of things that you can learn about, right? And if you're just thinking about video games, it includes AAA games, it includes mobile games, it includes different types of indie games, some of which are more commercially oriented, and some like this are a bit more experimental and artsy. And all of that you can learn game design. If you go outside of that, you can also learn game design from things like you know, things like board games and tabletop role-playing games and anything really that involves getting people to engage and be interested with something. Like you can learn about game design by throwing a party, for example, and that's like as broad as we go with like here's the things you can learn game design from. But then you also need to have your specific domain knowledge, right? And in professional development, if you're in like a we used to talk about this a lot in like employability classes on the game dev course I used to teach on. Most employers want someone with a T-shaped skill set, right? And what we mean by T-shaped skill set is that the person has deep knowledge of one or two things, which is the vertical bit of the T, and then broad, shallow knowledge of lots of different things. And the reason why that's valuable is it means that when they're working in a team, they can communicate with everyone else, right? So because your artist has a basic understanding of programming and game design, they can understand what the programmers and game designers are talking about, right? But then they have their deep subject-specific knowledge of art. And game design is a little bit like that because you need to have your deep specialist knowledge of the types of games that you're most interested in doing and which lend themselves most to the types of skills that you have. But if you also have a broad interest in everything else, you'll be able to look into other types of games and go, oh, this is how Fortnite does that, and that works really well over there. This is how chess does that, and that works really well over there. So I would never discount learning things from AAA games. I would say that only learning things from AAA games is bad, right? And that's one of the reasons why this channel is the way it is and why this channel has the kind of unique selling point that it does is that if you look at things like Game Maker's Toolkit, which I think is a fantastic channel, it's one of my favorite game design channels, but it does tend to gravitate towards every video being about a really big indie game or a Zelda or a Metroid or a Portal or some very well-known game. And that means that the much smaller games don't get a look in. I do think that indie game devs need to play games that are in the kind of scope of the type of game they could make, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing that you can learn from larger games and larger developers, right? So, yeah, by all means, like watch all the GDC talks from AAA devs. Watch as many as you can because you'll still learn something from it. Just like you know, just like if you were running a small mom and pop restaurant, you could learn something by going to a chain restaurant and seeing how they do things and thinking, oh, which parts of what they're doing here work with what I'm doing and which parts don't work with what I'm doing. It's kind of that sort of level of thinking. But yeah. Can you turn the game music down? Yeah. Okay. I just giving people career advice while jaunty accordion music plays. That's just what this channel is about, I guess. So, back in the scene. There's something really intriguing about the fact that we can't look all the way around. So we look around and there's like clearly this detailed scene behind us because we just saw the hut scene. We can see Hercus Harbour over there, but those things aren't treated as the clues that we need to look at. So we're looking through the blinds. We've got this setting, and there's something. I like this kind of setting because what they've done is they've made somewhere that feels like sort of mid-century Europe, which in a way makes it strange that there's so many people with hoods on, because I associate hoods with either like medieval assassin monk types or modern people. So it's a bit strange to see so many hoodies. But they're kind of doing what games like Blueprints do, where they're creating a world that is a modern world that has all the trappings of a particular cultural moment and location, but it's also not actually our world. It's made up countries and stuff. Blueprints does that. I guess lots of anime does it as well, like things like Howl's Moving Castle and stuff like that. It's clearly based on a specific place and time period, but it's a made up world, and that's interesting because it allows us to get into these like deep political themes that this seems to be going for, but in a way that doesn't tread on sensibilities by like making this literally a game about, I don't know, people trying to not get holocausted in a real Holocaust that happened, right? So it allows us to use these historical resonances of particular times and places without treading on like sensibilities quite so much. So, again, same thing that Papers, Please does. Yeah, Dishonored is a good example of that as well. These walls were rebuilt by the Octumvirate, our shield in times of disaster. We await your return and guaranteed renewal of the project, the people of Hyrcus. I'm looking for the source of the hammering. That's going to be special police knocking on my door, so I'm going to look at that last. So it's interesting. We got the Octumvirate. So I know a triumvirate is like a ruling group of 3 people, like the Godhead in Christianity is a triumvirate, for example. So I'm guessing the Octumvirate is like a council of 8 or 8 states that are ruling something, and there's probably a relationship between that and the wheel logo that we saw before as well. But we've also got this kind of like, oh, that's the hammering. Okay, these soldiers must be the militia. They arrived in that van over on the left and are already blocking the road. The first thing I should do is focus on the roadblock sign. Closed for celebration. We have once more traversed the unrefined road that unites us. Please enjoy the decorations and join for the parade. The red birds of the Marathan artillery. This wasn't here before. Okay. So they're basically saying, we come in peace. We're not beefing. Rude boy don't ramp, etc., etc. They've even got their cute little propaganda sticker that presents their tank as an angry bird, because they're trying to be down with the kids like 15 years ago. What do kids like in our oppressed annexed state? They love Angry Birds. That's what kids are into. Welcome to your mind palace, or for a less grandiose term, your mental study. This is where pinned information can be cross-referenced and organized into facts. You can memorize any 4 images or conversations simultaneously. You'll never need more than that. Pull the cord to consider your notes. So I'm guessing there's like a chapter where we piece together all the stuff here, and then we kind of move on in the scrapbook, and we don't need these ones so much anymore. It's good. It feels like I am slowly digesting this world, but nothing about the puzzle structure is putting me off and making me think, oh, this is too hard, right? Which this type of game could get like that very, very quickly. From now on, I can pin any image or conversation. The context of where these are found is important. The kids love ratting out the name. Information can also be learned by observing the environment. Decide which details are relevant. The sign that's being hammered into place mentions decorations. These are the somethings being attached. I actually need to go back and look because the decorations are these being attached to the lamppost. Okay, so go back to tab. Interface is working really well for me here. I like this scroll across effect. I think there's, overall there's lots and lots of art refinement that could happen here. But it has the bare bones of a game that could be very, very pretty, right? There's obviously lots of flat textures, and I think I'm going to keep hammering on about Blueprints, but Blueprints is such a good reference point for an art style because it's somewhere in between being realistic and looking hand-drawn, which makes it kind of easier to produce lots of stuff for it. The sign that's being hammered into place that mentions decorations, these are the flags being attached to the lamppost. Imagining that the decorations are all in place, the malicious return has something to do with the something on a something. Renewal. And that relates to the thing on the shield. These walls were, we await your return and guarantee renewal of the project, the people of Hirkus. Okay. So this is like a public plaque saying, we want you to come back and finish off what you were doing. I don't like the sound of this project, though. The malicious return has something to do with the shield on the building. I don't know if you've ever tried this Mind Palace thing, because it is an actual memorization technique that is taught. I think in popular culture it was sort of popularized by things like they do it in Hannibal, right? In the Hannibal book, how Hannibal remembers stuff. But I had a book years and years ago by the British sort of TV mentalist Darren Brown, and he sort of taught you how to do this stuff, and I actually used it in my exams at university. So he teaches you a method for card counting, which is if you have a whole deck of cards, you can remember the order of the cards by creating a mental story about the things, right? So you might look at the order of cards and say that you've got the Queen of Hearts, and then there's the Four of Clubs. So in your story, you might say, oh, the Queen went golfing, and she played 4 rounds of golf. And then you look at the next card, and it's the Six of Diamonds, and then you would say, she won her 4 rounds of golf, and she got 6 diamonds as a reward. And as you make that story, you mentally picture what's happening in the story, and then that allows you to pull the information back up. It's using narrative to create a mnemonic so that you can remember the thing, and that's what Mind Palaces are about as well. It's about just creating. It's almost like you're creating a set of false memories that allow you to easily recall types of information that aren't so easy to remember. Yeah, the bad guy. It's always the bad guy with the Mind Palace. Jam, how do you balance making content and working on your game? I just don't work on my game very much. I think if I was making content purely about my game rather than on other people's games, I wouldn't be in a good situation, because this channel wouldn't be doing well enough for me to live off. And I would just be making videos about my game and going, today I made a menu. And I think, I am quite happy to admit that I'm 70% content creator, 30% game dev at this stage, and I'm totally fine with that. Just like, 5 years ago I was 90% university lecturer and 10% game dev. Doing this allows me to be slightly more game dev, but still not fully. And I'm fine with that, because I like jumping around between doing different sorts of creative things. Okay, let's do the next puzzle. We've got another Darren Brown fan in the... I love Darren Brown. He's so funny. And he's such a funny, sweet guy. He's really cool. Some of it's made up, fake, stooges, but I don't care. I want to believe in Darren Brown. If you're watching this on the VOD and you're American, you don't know who Darren Brown is, I'll put a link on the VOD for some Darren Brown, and you can become obsessed. Or just laugh at the bad early 2000s British TV convention, which is amusing in its own right. Okay. Hover over these icons to get a reminder of the context behind the question, and an explanation of the deduction logic once solved. Red lines indicate facts that are shared between multiple deductions and are placed simultaneously. I really, really love this kind of board gaming interface. I think some of the things you could do to make this feel a little bit less cluttered is probably to make sure the facts have a slightly more different graphical style from the explainer cards. Because these feel very similar to these in terms of like the text and stuff. And maybe there's even a version of this where these kind of go away when you're not looking at them, you know? So we've always got the facts that we eventually need to use, but maybe the tutorials are more like you can see something's there and you need to hover over it to look at it. Because otherwise, whenever you're looking at the full screen and scanning for stuff, there's just so many little bits of text around. And I get that some of that is because we're in a tutorial, but I know it could put some people off quite early on, and there are probably some ways around that, like making this hover over text or something. Okay. Why have soldiers from Muraka come to here first? The soldiers were here to oversee a project which they had to leave unfinished. That was what we learnt as a kid. Now we're a bit older, and we're thinking about why have they come back to here first. They've come back to complete the project. The shield has a guarantee from the people to renew the Optum Virus project, and this fact has to have the red hand. Right, so we've kind of got the idea of suits of cards here that makes it a little bit easier to narrow down which one you're looking at, which is quite helpful. That doesn't necessarily mean that we won't need to think about these facts in order to decide which of these facts to put in the doc, though, right? So Sandmeyer was our kind of, almost our kind of Harriet Tubman figure, helping people escape when we were a kid. Murata's new leaders were unknown in southern Heerland when they took control. Don't really know what that means. The Muratans helped to rebuild Heerkust before withdrawing. I'm going to put the shield there. The Muratans in Heerkust because the soldiers will... I've got a little bit of a... Maybe that's incorrect. Red lines indicate facts that are shared between multiple deductors and are placed simultaneously. So I think I've put the wrong thing there because... Oh no, it's locked into place, but it's not letting me click and drag the fact. Which is not good. Do I have a different way of doing that? Maybe if I click out of the menu. I think we've hit a bug. I think we've hit a bug. Maybe if I click through the menus a little bit, we'll get a reset on that. But I've hit a bug where I can't drag the words onto here. Oh no, it's working now. Okay, unfinished project. It's oversee or renew the unfinished project. Is that right? The Marathons in here cursed because the soldiers will renew their unfinished project. It doesn't make sense. Because the people of Hercus will rule. Okay. So it's the people of Hercus that are doing the project, and the soldiers are there to oversee or enforce the project happening.
The Marathons are here to perform a parade. They couldn't seem more benign. They're hanging up flags that will eventually spell renewal, which echoes the guarantee of renewal by the people of Hercust to the Octumvirate. With that, as well as the octagon motif, I've deduced that the Marathons are here to renew their project. Now, that shield has been out there my whole life, and I should know, having never left this room. I'm sure I've heard the word project in one of my books. It's as vague as it sounds. It didn't mean anything to me at the time, and I don't have time now to double check. Everything I need has to be right here. I've got to observe them and figure out why they've come to Hercust.
And I think one of the things I'd really like to commend the dev on with this game so far, from what we've seen, is how you've chosen to make a game about political intrigue and someone's personal relation to that kind of stuff, right? Which is quite a heavy topic when it happens in the real world. And the way it's handled in terms of art, the music, even your developer voiceover, which, you know, I understand you're probably going to replace later on. The presentation, that kind of board gamey feel to the Mind Palace is very light. And, you know, we've got this kind of jazz at the moment, right? Just trying to get rid of that debug again. We've got this kind of jazz, and it's a bit modern. It's a bit kind of lo-fi hip-hoppy. But and it's, yeah, maybe the music isn't quite on point, but there's something about this that has this kind of historical, whimsy, light mystery novel feel to it. And again, I'm going to come back to the Blueprints, because Blueprints does that as well. It has this very light entry point, and then it ends up being about quite heavy things. And that is, to me, that is so much more effective and affecting than saying, my game is about a serious topic, we're going to make it all doom and gloom from the get-go. Because one thing that you're doing is you're aligning the mood of the game with the state that you want the player to be in when they're playing the game, which is they're sitting, reading, and deducing. So you don't want to stress them out by being like, this is a really high-stakes situation, right? And this is why puzzle games tend to be quite relaxed in their sort of ambience and stuff like that. But it all feels kind of historically appropriate, because what we're getting is the art style. If this is kind of like a mid-century type setting, I don't know if this is like the 30s, or it could be any time between the 30s and the 60s, but it feels like there's something about this painterly art style that feels like it's something that could exist during that period, right? And I'm not even sure if I'm getting the period right, because I thought I saw like a CD player or something as well. But we've got this kind of mid-century vibe to the setting, and then the art and the graphic design all makes it feel like something from that setting, right? The Mind Palace is a board game from the time period that all of these cultural touchstones are hitting on, the painterly art style and stuff. I mean, it's not a million miles away from being something like Tintin or something like that, you know? It feels like that it's in that kind of area of sort of mid-century Pulp Fiction type stuff. And yeah, it's just really charming, the fact that we're doing this sort of heavy subject matter, but with such a light touch in terms of how everything is presented. And I find that really, really a really nice coming together of elements. I was 12 when I did that. I screamed it was never to be mended. Is it a self-portrait? I don't know. We've got no face in our hoodie, so. One of the few times I've raised my voice to Creator. One of the few times that Creator has explained something directly. I'm not a wraith that sucks the life out of people, though anyone outside this room would assume as much if they saw me. I've grown to appreciate this little exhibit I made. Any angst I feel belongs to this young person, not to me. That's an interesting sentiment as well. Overlooked book. So can you see? You can see the shield on the wall, right? So this is the view from our apartment, and you can see our character's eyes. I don't know how if you can see that if it's too small. You see our character's eyes up in the window, right? So this is a self-portrait from looking up at the window that we're looking out of, and we live above a bookshop called Overlooked Book. And here's another point about the art. The fact that we've got this kind of painterly, you know, brush strokes are everywhere in the 3D textures means we can have these like hand-drawn painted documents and it all feels like it's coming from the same place, you know? Really, really nice. I don't think that's important. I'm not going to pin it. Maybe that's important. I'm going to not pin loads of stuff until I've thought about it and decided it's important. Creator kept up this old tradition of marking my height each year until I became, in their opinion, freakishly tall. We lost track of my age after that, though I must be at least a decade older. Okay, so we're 28. And we're trying to work out what the project is. Adam Hussein Super Cannon something. We can see that we're by the sea, right? So based on the map earlier, Heerland is on the south coast of this big sea, and then Morata's to the north, and it's landlocked. So we're right at the south of Heerland. What does this say up here? A step for each soul lost, a leaf for each year since. Look at the sea and remember. A step for each soul lost. A leaf for each year since. Look, okay, so there's how many leaves? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's been 10 years since this thing happened. And this many people died. Just like... I don't know. There's like 20, 24 stairs there. I'm not going to count them right now. 24 people died 10 years ago. Something like that. This is very, very puzzle gamey. Right? There's like just the fact that that is there and it's like, look for these numbers. Fine though. The other thing you have to remember is like the player is here for a puzzle game first and foremost, and then the world and the like believability of the world is so kind of secondary to that. And if you're going to do playful things like that, at this point, I think the player is already onboarded enough and on board enough to be like, yeah, that's fine. That's what I expect. Okay. May our swords not be redrawn in honor of the Hirkus Navy decommissioned in 1855. So I think this refers because it's look to the sea and remember, right? 10 years ago was Hirkus' last naval battle, and then the navy was decommissioned after that point. Which you would think if Hirkus is annexed by Murata, which it seems like it is, you would think Murata would want their navy so that they. But I don't know. I'm kind of speculating too far ahead at this stage. But I find this type of thing in a game very, very interesting. And it's really it's weird to me because I don't find lore in games interesting when it's told to you. But when you have a game where working out the lore is the gameplay, then I find it really, really intriguing. How was your journey, sir, Captain? Straightforward enough. The road we took has many legs. Remind me that I've always wanted to travel on Takel's inky road. Murata is landlocked, while they build homes on stilts. Takel, where's our map? Oh, Takel over there. That's the archipelago. I'm looking forward to traveling here in an efficient manner. I'm not sure of the heelish word. The road we took will be better without looking like the complicated, twisty construction above you. I appreciate that, sir. Captain, we are quite busy. Would you be okay to use the courtyard this afternoon? Absolutely. We are most familiar with the outdoors, and it is quite beautiful here. If the indoors were gone, you would barely miss it, eh? Haha. Indeed. Please excuse me. I'll just inform. The sea has been calling since our arrival. You must never tire of it, eh? Tell me more of your harbor. Okay, I'm pinning that conversation. Get back to the gap. Oh, I'm stuck. The context menu at the bottom right for like telling you how to do things is pretty well done. I occasionally have a moment of not knowing what a button does and it's just immediately there. I think the only point where the game becomes a bit clunky is in the Mind Palace when we can see all of the text at once. And some of that will just be my ADHD brain doing the, you know, the meme where someone's got the Johnny Silverhand Keanu Reeves avatar and he's like, I ain't reading all that. Sorry that happened to you, or congratulations, whichever is most appropriate. But yeah, I still haven't played Root Trees. I've been describing this one to people as a Root Trees like because I know it's a similar kind of sort of game. You're listening to Radio Hirkus. I'm Felix Baum, playing traditional Muratan tunes all morning to welcome our visitors. We've just played you, Glory to the Groovy Octanvirus. See folks, their words may be sharp, but their tunes are smooth. Coming up, we've got Murata Was Made For Me and the North Ministry March. I don't know what the North Ministry is, but it's not the Ministry of Fancy Name. Okay. So it seems like the North Ministry, which is the Red Spokes, I think, is a separate thing from the Muratan Red Hand. It seems like there's two different political groups here, and they're both from Murata, but the Red Spokes are a different thing. They may be like a secret society rather than actually being explicitly the Muratan government, right? They might be more something like the CIA of Murata or something like that. I don't know. This is kind of the vibe I'm getting. I might be completely wrong. Hirkus Harbor. Looking over the bay towards the Takeo Island. Hey, explorers. That's a neat official Neroxian Fault Visitor Center poster you've got. Here is a Norician fact for you. This type of fault line is called strike slip. This is the straightest there is, and it created Lake Deal Christ Sprung on Karakotel.
Yesterday, Creator dropped off his book about lakes and rivers. Finally, more insight into how the wider world is connected. I've already read it twice. Like most of the unpublished books in my possession, the words themselves are gibberish, but some remarkable soul has added all these lines to the map I already had. It's cross-referencing time.
The contours look nice, and I like how you kept the colors consistent. Anything else worth adding? Country capitals, Hirstadt on the western plateau. So Hirstadt is the capital of Hirland. Murata, where the river meets Karakot. Fault line, what across out the whole map? Okay, so the fault line that we saw on the poster goes across the whole thing. River names. So it would be good on this kind of screen if the zoom changed to zooming in the thing that we've got expanded, because at the moment I've got in the context menu it says zoom with the mouse wheel, and I do that and it zooms my eyes, and but we've got this open, so I would think the zooming would be on the document. See what's in here. Hey explorers, can you match the names to each of Hirland's major trails? I love the fact that you've got this little explorer character that shows up in multiple places. There's like a... Yeah, I mean, we can see the Tintin here, right? Once it's pinned, we can zoom in, right? But I only have 2 things to pin. I guess I can pin it over that because I don't need that. I don't want to forget the conversation that involved my parents being taken away, but I've got to forget it to remember this map. A trail named after the salt that was transported from the coast to one of Heelan's earliest factory towns. A road named after the crisp green valleys and mountains it winds through. The Emerald Road, the Gold Road, the Amber Road, the Silver Road, the Ink Road. Okay. So we've got colour associations E-G-A-S-I. Okay, so one is A. The Amber Road is the trail that the salt was... So that's the coastal road from the salt. The second road is the Emerald Road that goes through the green valleys. And if we look at the other map... So the Amber Road goes all the way down the lower coast of Heeland and around, and then it looks like it, oh no, this is the whole, this is just Heeland, this is the country. So the Emerald Road is there. Several shipping lanes will be the Ink Road, right? The Ink Road is the name for the shipping lanes that go to Tackle Island. The flat wide valley I might have got this. The 5 is the Silver Road. But maybe the answer that's been written at the top is wrong? Because the one that connects the harbour towns is the Amber Road, right? And I guess it's called the Amber because it's the sandy coastal path and sand is amber coloured. So 4... Yeah, I think whoever filled... I think the thing we're supposed to get with this is that the person that filled it out before was wrong, right? So... The last one is the Amber Road. The lakes are all up here. We don't know where the mountains are. We know there's a fault line that runs through the country, which I think is what the Golden Road is. I think maybe the Golden Road is actually the fault line. I don't have... I should have... I'm going to get myself a pencil. 1 second. It is thinking time, yeah. This is the first real thing. And I don't even know what we do with this information yet, but I feel compelled to... this is one of the reasons why, you know, I had a very good time with Blueprints because I played it with my partner and we were both thinking out loud about a lot of things, but also the way that we played that game is we dealt with the information when we found it rather than when we needed it, and that meant that when we found the sort of puzzle that you needed to plug a particular clue into, we already had this big library of data that we got from the game, and it made it easier to answer it. Whereas like finding a puzzle and then going and looking for the answer for it was the harder way around to do it. So I tend to like try and solve the things as I find them, even if I don't know what they're for yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the shipping lanes is the Ink Road, right? So 3 is I, and 5 is the coastal road, so that's Amber. The Emerald Road is the crisp green valleys, so that's E, which is in the second position. And I think the first one, the trail after the salt was transported from the coast to one of the Heelan's earliest factory towns. I think that's the Silver Road, so I think number 1 is F. Placeholder images. So the order I got when I put those in that order is S-E-I-G-A. I don't know how helpful that is. The thing that's confusing is that Aegis is a word, right? So the order that they're in is a word, but the order that I ended up with them in isn't a word. Because I ended up with Sega. It's like Sega with an extra I in the middle. Whereas Aegis is a word and it means like a shield, right? Very nice painting. So if you're going to be stuck in a room your whole life, you might as well get good at something. Dramatic, survival, scary, children's non-fiction, children's fiction, interesting, happy, sad, relationship, confusing, travel and cooking, history and music, law and politics. Can we interact with any of these books? I'm going to do a proof copy. Oh my goodness, you've made so many of these. This is a good example of a game that is clearly the product of... I know the developer is in the chat, right? But this is such a good example of... You see this game and you can see there's parts of it that the dev just really enjoyed doing, right? And I think... I get that dev on top of away. You can just see the amount of enjoyment that's gone into like naming all of these things. And yeah, it's neat. Let's just have a look at these book titles. So we've got, under history and music, we've got Browner teaches you to waltz, proof copy, property of overlooked book, all history interviews of Sardinia, Gradler's Guide to Unusual Heerish Laws, Keynes's Compendium of Communist Principles. This will be our in-universe version of Karl Marx. His name in Disco Elysium is like Krasmakov or something. You've got to have... I used to do this in all my D&D campaigns. We had I'd take historical figures and make versions of them. We had a bit in our campaign where we took our warlock to a psychotherapist who was called Gustav Flung, and he was a gnome. And the way that I decided you do psychotherapy in D&D is to create a portal into a pocket dimension in the person's mind and like go and fight their trauma and stuff. But basically, Mind Palace stuff again. Need to restart the game. Oh yeah, I'll leave. We'll just ignore it. Dandir, obliteration, proof copy. Anonymous, construct of a killing machine. Proof copy. These are sad. These are sad books. I wonder if some of these are banned. I wonder if there's an element of that, and that's why we're in a bookstore. You know, because the bookstore person is a sympathizer, and they've agreed to hide us. Gradler's Guide to Alpine Foraging. Trauner teaches you deep sea diving. Trauner can teach us a lot of different things, apparently. Trauner teaching us deep sea diving and what was the other one? The waltz. The Tower and Tankard. That's a lovely barn that's been converted into a bar. A barn, if you will. Later on, the same person will go on to create such innovations as the barcade and the Cruffin. But they started their portmanteau journey with the bar. Seen too much, man, and now there's a debug console. Okay. Symbolic image. Lovecraftian madness realm. How will we know? A pink bar for the pinkos to hang out in. I think that's more of a personal thing than a thing we need to puzzle about. I used to pester creator to describe the world beyond the bounds of my window. About 3 years ago, they gave me a picture for my wall. Then another 1 year later, and now they're everywhere. I've never seen creator draw, so these are just another element of their air of mystery. Eventually, they gave me a picture of this publishing house. Overlooked book, with me in the room above, peering out behind the blind. Okay. So that's not a picture that our character painted. There you are, Marin. This is how the world looks. You're a part of it too, even if you can't explore it for yourself. What about the space in between these landmarks? The creator considers the matter resolved, hasn't elaborated further. Don't know if we're doing some meta thing where the creator is the person who made the game or something. Don't know. Not sure. That kind of stuff's hard to pull off. You can do it really well, but it's hard to pull off in a way that doesn't feel self-indulgent. And I think it's always that thing of just like, you have to buy a lot of goodwill for people to be into that sort of thing. But I'm not totally certain that is going to be like a meta move where the game is talking about itself being made as a game system. But I believe in storytelling circles, that's what we refer to as doing some Alan Moore shit. Is there anything I've not looked at out here? I really like how we get a couple of very small vignettes to just learn the basic, and then we're immediately thrown into this much richer set of things to look at and think about. It could be daunting for some players, but I personally quite like it, because if it felt like a series of locked room puzzles where there were only like 3 or 4 pieces of information to cross-reference and you just did a chain of those, it would feel too hand-holdy for the sorts of people that like these kind of games. Because the way that a deduction game like this works is by providing so much information that you can only pair the information up in the way that works if you're genuinely thinking about it and like deducing. Whereas if you have a puzzle where there's just 3 components, then the solution to the puzzle is randomly putting the components together until you get the right answer. Right? So the more noise there is in the puzzle, or the more puzzles there are at the same time and space, then the more that they can serve as noise to each other. Because maybe everything is the solution to some puzzle, but if you get it all at the same time, you don't know which one is kind of weird. And in sort of traditional point-and-click adventures, they would spread that out over a whole map. So you had to like wander around to find where this key went and so on. Whereas in this kind of thing, you put it all in the same place, which is good, I think. Puts the emphasis on the player thinking about stuff rather than the player aimlessly wandering. Recruiting now. Damage from the fault line's last major earthquake is still not mended. All villagers, welcome to the Norrithian Fault Visitor Center. I want to find out where that is. Can I go and work at the Norrithian Fault? Done. Radio here first. Yeah, we don't really know where the Norrithian Fault is because they won't put it on that map. it created Lake Zeal, Chris, Strong, and Caracol. So if we look at the map. Okay, the fault line, if you see those, there's 4 lakes that are like in a line that go from the bottom of the hill and peninsula up to central Maratha. There's those 4 lakes in a line, and from the sea it goes Sprung, Christ, Zeal, Terracotta. Those are all on the fault line. I don't know what that information gets us. The fault line runs between Maratha and Hillen. Maybe that's what the project is. Maybe they're trying to build a fault line generator. That sanctuary. Oh, that's where we were in the first scene. And it looks like the building next to it has a number 8. So maybe that's useful information. But this is where we were hiding under the bed in the first scene, I think. And presumably, although it was a sanctuary housing political dissident or whatever, presumably it's some other type of sanctuary, because he wouldn't put sanctuary on the door unless it was a double bluff. Like an animal sanctuary where they hide the communists or whatever our parents were. Oh, look, we are free
Oh,
people.
yes, they're not exactly being subtle. They're right outside the bleeding windows. At least they've moved out of the way of the car. Keep an eye on them, Marin. But for the love of Lisa, stay out of sight. Traitor seems to have forgotten about my book titled How to Move Around Unnoticed.
Uh-huh. Right, we're going to go in here. We're going to do some mind mapping, I guess. This area is cleared. Sorry about the debug console. If you've just popped in, folk, I can get rid of it by restarting the game, but I think we might lose something if I restart the game. So. Okay. We've got these fog of war areas. I really like the explosion of complexity that we get. The first one of these maps was very simple. Now it's like boom. This is on a different level immediately. And I think that's good. That's a good approach to onboarding in any game. It's like tell people how to play the game very quickly and concisely in a very narrow situation, and then after that just kind of show them this is what the mid game is going to be like. This is the level of complexity or, you know, action difficulty of the game, because then you're giving them an out if they don't like it. and you're sort of saying, if you look at this and you go, oh, that's interesting, I want to solve that, then this game is for you. And if you look at this and think, oh, I ain't reading all that, then the game is probably not for you. So it's worth just allowing the game to show itself early on. I think. Right. Why did the Marathas describe the road they took as unrefined? What is the project? Why are the Marathans painting outside? What is the painting indicating? Where am I? Which landmark connects Maratha to the coast? Why did the Marathas describe the fact that describes the road's physical condition, the Marathans' preferred form of travel? The Marathans are in Hirkus because the people of Hirkus will renew their unfinished project. And I think, well, they like driving, don't they? I mean, they've got cars. Okay, here's where I put canals, ink, sand, amber, salt, silver, valleys, emerald, lemons, golden. On the map, Maratha City is at Marathas travelled here via the... Okay. So I need to put the... So the note on the map tells us where Hirstadt should be. Country capital. Hirstadt on the western plateau. Murata where the river meets. Okay. So Hirstadt is in E1, I think. Because that looks like... That's like... So if you see Heerland, the purple country we're in, Hirstadt is the capital of Heerland, and it's on the western plateau, and the only bit that really looks like a plateau in the west is square E1. So that will be Hirstadt. And then Murata's capital is where the river meets Terracote, which is in B7. And that means that the road they took would go from Terracote to that thing on the Heerland. So if I look at this map, I mean, none of the roads actually take you to the... But are we in Hirstadt? I'm not sure we are. We're... No, because we're on the coast, right? So we're not actually in Hirstadt. We are in... what's it called? Hirkust is the whole place we are. they've spelt renewal wrong as they put their flags up. That's quite fun. Oh, there was a tsunami. That's the remembrance statue of the tsunami. Okay. So maybe the decommissioning of the Navy doesn't have anything to do with that. They do have that flag. And as, I mean, they do seem to like travel by road. That's something we can tell. The Marathon captain aspires to travel along... Did he travel along the Naritian Fault and that's why they said it was an unrefined road? Unless he wanted to travel along canals and he said it shouldn't look like the Naritian Fault. Looking at the sign next to it, the line on the ground relates to... A lot of stuff to fill out here. I mean, that's good though. The thing about having multiple concurrent puzzles is you can kind of jump between them if you get stuck. When they say the line on the ground, are they talking about that? That's like a pipe or something, isn't it? There's so much. I'm sorry I'm jumping around so much. This is just how I would naturally play this type of game. Okay, we've ticked off everything on the recent roadblock. According to Creator, the Marathons are in Heerland to make a meter wide building water feature. I don't know. I'm going to save and return to title, and I'm going to try and get this development console off. So just give me a second on that. It's starting to get in the way of... When we're in those like book menus, it starts to get in the way a little bit more. As always, if you like the look of this game, there should be a link to it in the VOD, in the video description if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, just search Steam Cracked Where the Light Gets In. I don't think there's a public playtest yet, but you can follow the game if you find it interesting and then play it later on, or maybe join the playtest. I'm not sure which kind of stage it's in right now. I did also I also cross-posted this stream before it happened to the I posted this over in the Thinky Games Discord because there's people there that would like this sort of thing, and whenever I get wind of a game that I know of a community that will like, I try and kind of share it with them. Right, let's continue. Hope the dev console is not saved. So that's the picture of Hiercost Harbour. So Hierland is the country, Hiercost is the capital. We are in the harbour of the capital, yeah. Which means when it says it's on the Western Plateau, maybe I'm taking it too literally. Maybe we're on F2 or something like that. I'll avoid the nook. Okay. Have another look in here. On the map, Maratha City. So I feel reasonably sure that Maratha City is at B7. The Marathas travelled here by the Golden Road seems to be the only one that comes in that direction. Hiercost is somewhere on the... Not the Golden Road, okay. The Golden Road and the Emerald Road cross each other, so we're triangulating. The Golden Road is the only road that comes into the country from Maratha, so they travelled in from the Golden Road, and then they hit Hiercost, which is on the Emerald Road. But to me, that still doesn't make sense because... we seem to be on the coast. So maybe they went on the Golden Road and transferred onto the Emerald Road, and then we're actually at the end of the Emerald Road down by the Amber Road. That could make sense. The only other place where two roads cross would be the Silver Road and the Amber Road, but the Silver Road doesn't. The Amber Road looks like it might come into the country, but I don't think... Yeah, that takes you round to Jindizia and not Maratha, so I'm going to say they came in on the Golden Road and then they swapped. So we're on the Emerald Road there. And the narration fault runs from A something to G something. Which is A... So it runs along the map from somewhere along here to somewhere down here. Fault line, what, and across the whole map. So we know that it's kind of coming down all the way, but we've got to identify where the fault line starts and ends. So looking here again, Oh, and we know that the fault line goes through the map, through these, right? So it's going to be from it's A7 or 8 down to G5, I think. G5 I feel more sure about. That's right. That's right. Murata City is at B7. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm glad that the ability to only pin limited things is helpful, because it does mean you have to go back and recollect things if you want to have them here for reference, but it also stops you getting overwhelmed. So Murata over here. The only ones that come into the country are the Golden Road. They could have come in via the Amber Road. And then we're on the Silver Road or the... Just try putting... Okay, let's try Amber here and Golden here. Golden is clearly the one that comes... Yeah, okay. They came in on the Golden Road. They went on the Green Road down to the coast, and then we're on the Amber Road. So Hearcurst is at the point where the orange and green lines meet on the map. It feels very rewarding doing this game. I don't know how much of a spectator sport it is, but it's the kind of thinking process is really rewarding. When I first saw this interface, I thought the whole game was going to feel too handholdy. And part of that is because it has this kind of correct thing where it ticks things off and it goes, you've got the right answer now. But once we get into this room where we've got, like I said, multiple concurrent puzzles, it feels a bit less like you could just brute force it by putting random stuff. And I'm sure there is a way of being able to do that, but I think at that stage, if you're worried about your players doing that too much, then that's probably not the core audience of the game anyway. Right. Wait, so hang on. Does that mean that the Golden Road is the fault line? So if the fault line goes from A8 to B5, it goes from there to there, and it cuts through the lake. So where's our the Golden Road? The Golden Road is actually going down and pointing towards the peninsula, so that lines up with the lake. So the Golden Road is the fault, I think. The Golden Road is a flat, wide valley nested between mountains and dotted with lakes, considered a rich vein of prosperity, although originally named after its ancient lemon trade. Okay, so we've got a valley where they grow lemons, which is called the Golden Road, and that is also the fault line, I think. Or it's connected to it in some way. I don't know. I'm not totally certain there. The fault line runs from Murata to the southern coast of Kierland. That's the physical description, maybe. The Murata's preferred form of travel that's not the right type of clue to go there. We need a a yellow puzzle piece to go there. The link between the Marathas painting and the unrefined road. Which shape the Marathas would prefer the road to be? Okay, what? I'm forgetting what the painting is about as well. Where's the painting? That's not the painting, is it? That's just a poster. What painting are you talking about? Wait. That's not the painting, is it? No. We're talking about something the Maratians were painting. It's like, what is that? Like, maybe I just don't have it yet. Why are they painting outside? Marathons are here because the people of Hercus will renew their unfinished project. That's the clue that we previously completed. You can make the game harder by turning these icons off. That's interesting as well. I also... There's like clues about the world, right? Like this valley full of lemon growing and stuff. That is there as a clue. It's just a set of things for you to remember about the valley and why it's called the Golden Road and stuff. But it's also incredibly evocative for me now in my head. I can imagine this almost like, I don't know, kind of like Sicilian valley with all of these lovely kind of citron trees and stuff. It sort of reminds me of the kind of placemaking you do when you run a D&D campaign, where you're just like, oh, when you come up with a town in D&D and you're like, oh, there's these 3 defining factors of this town. They have this main agricultural thing. Their mayor is like this. And just having 2 or 3 standout facts about a place just allows your imagination to do quite a lot with that. Okay, I'm on used fact. The Golden Road trade route formed naturally over a fault line. But we don't have any puzzle piece clues, so I feel like we're missing clues that we need to use here because we don't have one that has this icon on. These are facts about geography, right? That's why they've got the little... These icons are getting a little bit small here, but we've got like icons about the Marathans, icons to do with Maratha's leaders, so the political power in Maratha, which seems to be separate from the people of Maratha, right? This seems to be personal collections, this sign, and then these are things to do with geography and geology and the physical world. So there is a clue we haven't found yet. And I think, actually, part of this is I haven't really been through these things and identified anything else about them. So maybe the fact is that I need to finish this. Yeah, I mean, the game has already taught me that this is the order of doing things, but because there's so much processed at once, I'm sort of getting a little bit lost. Okay, so something here is to do with that painting of that cafe. So I'm going to have to go in the nook to see again. Oh, the cafe is the cafe out there. Okay. That's the line. Ah, okay. Got it. That's what I was missing. I love an aha moment. So when the questions ask what were the Maratians painting, they're painting a line down here. They're going to build the Berlin Wall, but they're going to make it really thin. The thinnest Berlin Wall you ever did see. It's going to go 10 miles up in the sky. Okay. Looking at the sign next to it, the sign on the ground relates to... The line on the ground relates to... A new attraction has opened, revealed, where the Earth will someday split. Note, attraction is dependent on position of the sun. Not sponsored by the NFBC. The Earth will someday split down this line, and based on what we know about the geography so far, where we live is the intersection of the green and the orange line. So our town is on the left-hand side of the peninsula looking out. And that means there is a chance that the fault line runs all the way down this way, or could do if it was completed in some way. Yes, it does appear to be going straight through the bookshop. So I think the Golden Road that runs from Murata to Hearhurst, or Hearhurst, whatever we're called, if it were to be a refined road and it was to be developed into like a fancier road, it would go all the way through that valley of lemons, and it would come to the city, and it would cut through the city, and it would go down this line, right? So they're trying to... It relates to... According to Creator, the Maratians are in Heerland to make a something street. Where do we get the width of the street? I haven't seen. The Muratan captain aspires to travel along the Norwegian fault. He claims the road they took to get here shouldn't bear any resemblance to the cafes. Something. Looking at the sign next to it, the line on the ground relates to... We're missing some... We're missing some stuff. They're gonna build a road. They're gonna demolish this building. Gonna build a road that way. The line really does go all the way down to the building there. In this conversation again. So when the Mauritian captain is saying, "We're most familiar with the outdoors. It's quite beautiful here. If the indoors were gone, you would barely miss it. Haha." He's like joking about knocking their house down, basically. Very nice of him. I'm not sure of the Heelish word. The road we took would be better without looking like the complicated, twisty construction above you. So he's making all of these indirect comments about knocking stuff down to build a road. The road we took has many lakes. Reminded me that I've always wanted to travel on Kakel's Inky Road. Okay, so the question about what does he want, he aspires to travel along the... He wants to travel along canals, I guess, maybe. The road we took would be better without looking like the complicated, twisty construction above you. The complicated, twisty structure above her is... that is the memorial? Unless they are talking about the bookshop as being the twisty structure above. But that's not really above the cafe owner, right? Are they talking about the art? Do you have an arch above her? It does have an arch above her, so maybe cafe's arch. Yeah, okay, cool. The captain aspires to travel along canal. He claims the road they took to get here shouldn't bear any resemblance to the arch. Looking at the sign next to it, the line on the ground relates to the Norwegian fort. So he talked about travelling on the road, never getting to travel by water because his country is landlocked. There's no direct thing that says that he aspires to travel along canals, but canals was the only option in terms of like water travel. So, yeah. They're here to build a street. I don't know how we work out the width of that, but it's gonna be the width of our building. It's gonna be... according to Creator. So this is something that Creator tells us. Okay, so how do we get... where are we going to get that information from? Maybe we just knock on the door. Excuse me, Creator. Tell me what they're here to do. The clue says that you know. Is there a clue in that painting? I don't think there is right now. I can't. Right, we get tsunamis in this harbour because we're at the end of a fault line, or with the end of the land piece of the fault line. refer to the text as. I really like this device of having sort of a document and then notes on the document that provide another layer of clues in a less direct way. That's quite cool. The malicious return has something to do with the field on the building. So the project is to build the road and connect their country to the sea through Ireland. The Maratans are almost set up. I should observe and eavesdrop on them, keeping in mind my knowledge of the geography. I should also investigate the floorboards bunk bed. Okay, that's the thing. Huh. Okay. You can see there's a whole room down there. It says everything can be reached from the bedside as well, so I see someone's down there, but cannot find an obvious interaction. I've been told that everything I can see in the room can be sort of seen from here, so you don't actually have to walk around the room if you don't want to. And I would think if there's something I can activate... Ah, there it is.
There it is, the loose floorboard. It must have been prized out to install the light fitting for the room below. I keep it hidden in case Creator decides to do some DIY. On such an ominous day, there's a good chance I'll get a peek at one of Creator's cryptic letters.
You can now jump between them. Have the bearings by jumping to move around. Okay, Z and X jump us between the hole in the ground and the window. Dear Sandmeyer, the spokes are back and keen to keep excavating. It takes an army to dig a water feature as wide as our harbour. To be fair, 5 meters less than, so they're bloated tanks to reach half. So they'll be crawling all over your valley soon to restart their project, probably snooping around your pawn shop too. Okay, so not really a water feature that they're digging it. He's being sarcastic. They're making a canal as wide as the harbour, 5 meters smaller than the harbour. So we need to know the width of the harbour and then take away 5 meters to know the width of the water feature, which is actually a military canal. And Sandmeyer is in the valley, which means that either we grew up in the valley and that's where the sanctuary is, or Sandmeyer's moved there later. about the width of the harbour. Ah, hang on. 0, 10, 20. That's the width of the harbour. So the first one says 0, so we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. The harbour is 100 meters wide, so it's going to be 95, I think. Hell yeah. I've heard before that one of the reasons why you get lots of streamers that won't play puzzle games like this is because they're worried about looking like a dumbass on camera. And I did feel like maybe at some point then I was going to get revealed to be a massive dumbass, but it didn't happen yet. So we've got these puzzle piece back that can go in this slot. A fault line runs from Morata to the southern coast of the island. And the straight line, so it doesn't let you sort of jump ahead and make conclusions that don't fit in this bit. So the thing that's related to this is that the straight line is related to the narration fault, right? I think. The road that they took shouldn't resemble an arc. This is a very strange thing. I think he was to travel along canals. Okay, I've got all the facts, I just need to put them in the right order. I think we should be able to right-click these to remove them entirely as well, rather than swapping them out. We have that function on the word placement puzzles. It'd be good to just be able to right-click to get rid of these. Okay. The road's physical description and the Morata's form of... Okay, so... He wants to travel along canal. And it shouldn't look like an arc. Is that right? No, that's going to be all the job back. Now we can do this one. The paint is indicating the location of the narration fault. Where am I? I live in Earcoast. Which landmark connects Morata to the coast? The Moratas are showing that Earcoast is on a fault line, which starts beyond the something which starts beyond the coast, then travels straight through Heerland and into Maratha. That was interesting as well, because there was a south as one of the clues, but there wasn't a north. So I initially thought I need to make it say the road travels south from Maratha to Heerland, but we can't do that and use the coast, because using the coast we need the road to run north. So there was an interesting sort of red herring in the available words there. That was cool. That was a well-structured puzzle. When did the Marathans why did they describe the road they took as unrefined? The Octumvira are here to do something, here to something or something which follows an existing something on the unrefined road. That follows an existing trade route. They're here to finish a canal which follows an existing trade route. So both of these have a white light now, they're correct, and now they're feeding into this. And I think that's what the project is, right? The Octumvira are here to finish a canal which follows an existing trade route on the unrefined road. The fact that explains the lurking time. The link between the Marathans painting and the unrefined road. Which shape the Marathans would prefer the road to be. It shouldn't be an art. I don't really understand how a road can look like an arc. I'm finding the art thing confusing. The link between the Marathans painting and the unrefined road is that project is a 95-meter wide canal. It will travel straight through Kirkuk.
Looking at this painted line, the size of the harbour, and their insistence on straightness, well, I've begun to fear it turns out to be true. Haircust, and Overlook Books in particular, is directly on the fault line. They're going to construct a giant trench through everything I've ever known. I've always looked forward to the day I could place Haircust on a map. I always imagined it would be a joyous occasion. Creator has been shielding me from this while still trying to use me as an informant of sorts. If I'm going to be useful, they need to bring me up to speed. I'm nearly done, Marin. What is it? Creator, I know why you've been so anxious recently. They're here to build a canal right through our home. Yes, you're absolutely right. How in Lisa's name did you work that out? We don't have time, Creator. Please, can you tell me what you know? Did Heerland really agree to this? Or is Maratha pressuring us for some reason? The answer is both. Maratha pressured, but then Heerland might have agreed anyway. Maratha has always promised us mutual benefit. But the trade route is a farce, and the Octumvirate are totalitarian psychopaths formed from a bloody coup. They don't need to flatten our town to get to the coast, but we're nothing to them. They chased dissidents throughout Heerland after they came to power. Remember I told you how they went house to house? I know, it's okay. I understand now. Is there anything I can do? No. No. I'm sorry I didn't explain everything, but what was the point? You're smart, Marin, but stuck in here with nothing but a bunch of unpublishable books? It was easy not to involve you. I need to finish something. I'll be back soon with some lunch. I'll even bring something new, in case it's our last meal. Just me and my books.
Grim?
I'm certain I read about a project in one of my more down-to-earth books. A book about unusual laws. That was it.
Right.
Any port in a storm. Let's see what I can dig up.
So you can see the way that this is structured to set us up for the whole game to be in this room, right? We've got the books that we couldn't access when I first looked at them, but now they've become another clue. Presumably there are other things in this room that may become clues later on, like the painting of the bar and this painting and stuff like that. But it's all scoped to just be stuff in this room, and you know, maybe there would be a surprise different location at the end of the game, but it's already very well kind of set up to have this conceit of like you are a shut-in, you can't go outside. Really neat. I'm gonna wrap the stream up here because as much as I'm enjoying doing this, I don't want to spoiler the whole set of puzzles that are already in the game, because probably more beneficial to the dev at this stage to have a few people checking it out and giving feedback on places they get stuck and everything. Hopefully they've seen some bits from watching me play that could have been more intuitive or whatever. But I think this is great. Obviously there are some areas of visual polish that could be a bit tidier. More than one voiceover artist in the final game and all of that kind of stuff. A few little pieces of puzzle wording that could be ironed out, and some of that you will get through playtesting and people just pointing out, I didn't understand this puzzle. But honestly, I think this is the sort of game where if you get this to a stage where you've got all of the text in the game in a spreadsheet where it's very easy to view it all in one go, which, you know, if you want to localize a game like this, you will have to do that at some point. You will have to have a way of like having the text available in a way that's not just like baked into parts of the code. Then when you get to that stage of the project, I would just highly recommend getting like a day or two's worth of an editor's time, like someone who is an editor who edits copy for people but also is interested in games and puzzles, because they might help you with some of the wordings of some of these puzzles and make you feel a little bit less awkward. I think the main clue, and maybe this is just fresher in my mind because we hit upon it towards the end, was the stuff about the road not looking like an arch. I'm not sure I understand that, because there's just something awkward about that clue. Because I can understand a road that looks like an arch being like a riddle description for a tunnel, maybe, but a regular road doesn't look like an arch either. So why would he be saying don't make it look like an arch? It's like I would never think to make a road look like an arch. So there's some puzzle wording that feels a bit awkward, and that might be the sort of thing that you can just work on refining yourself. But I would also recommend getting some specific help with that stuff at some point. And maybe there's a point in the project where that is easier. And I would think, you know, if you're going to localize this and you've got all the text in some format that makes it easier to do, then it might also be easier to copy edit it at that stage as well. But yeah, this is really cool, and thanks for sharing it. That was from one of our Discord members, and I remember, Rob, you submitted this to Indies Under the Knife a long time ago. And then I think I scheduled to play it, and then there wasn't a playtest at the time, and I couldn't play it. So thank you for submitting it again via the Discord playtest thing. I've had a very good time with it, and I hope that this makes other people check it out who are interested in this sort of thing. In terms of what else is going on this week on the channel, I will be back tomorrow with our Discord community playtesting. So that is a playtesting session for games of Patreon supporters of this channel. I do it once every 2 weeks. As the channel grows, it may become more frequent than that. It may become one of the main things the channel does if that Discord community continues to get bigger. We're having a bit of an internal panic at the moment because Discord is turning itself into 1984 Big Brother surveillance state, just like every grown-up place on the internet at the moment. But we have no intention of leaving Discord just yet. We'll see what happens with that and just play it by ear. And some people it might not affect at all. It just, with those kind of things, it comes down to like the implementation and what is the actual UX friction of being asked to prove your age on different platforms and how they implement those age gates. So Discord is a bit up in the air at the moment, but we still have a community of like 500-600 people, and people who are submitting their we've got, okay, yeah, Canny and Rob, you're both devs on the game. Excellent. That's good. And yeah, Canny, send me a message and we'll send an additional invite to Rob just to say thanks for being a good sport and submitting this. And then on Thursday this week, so we got the Patreon supporters stream tomorrow, and then on Thursday we've got Indies Under the Knife, which is just like the open stream where anyone can submit a game, and we're looking at 3 different logic puzzles then. So it's the week of logic and puzzles this week. Last week we had the week of delivering stuff and deliveries, and this week we're puzzling and working stuff out. Yeah, I think we've got copy editors in the Discord, but we can help you find people like that. I sort of, we've we've ended up with a couple of freelancers in the Discord community who are really good at a particular thing and have ended up doing it for like 5 people. We have a graphic designer and a UI designer that's been doing that. I think we've got copy editors in there, so I would in the Discord have a look. I think we have a helper role for writing helpers. We have like all these different helper roles for like, oh, I need help with Godot, I need help with marketing, I need help with studio art. I think we have one for writing and stuff like that. So see who has that tag. Obviously, we don't do any kind of verification on that, so there might be people who do it professionally who have that tag, and there might be people who just are doing it as a hobbyist, so you'll have to take it with a pinch of salt, but you might find someone that way, because that's why we've got that helper role system set up. So yeah, see some of you back here tomorrow at the same sort of time. The stream on Thursday, the Indies Under the Knife stream with the puzzle games, is a bit later than it usually is. I've scheduled it for like the afternoon my time. That's because there's like a local thing that I need to go to at my normal Thursday streaming time. So if you're used to just always popping in on Thursday morning, just bear in mind that that stream has a different time from usual. And as always, I'm going to go to dancing low poly dot for a minute or so at the end of the stream so that it doesn't get cut off in a weird place, which some of you have said it did before. So rather than me stopping it while I'm talking, I'm going to cut over to a nice soothing screensaver for a minute, and then we'll end the stream there. So thank you for joining, and have a good rest of your day, week, month, year, and indeed life.